They are the most vulnerable of all laborers in South Africa. Some are still paid with food and even alcohol, the infamous dorp. Still others can be forced out of homes they've lived in their entire lives on the whim of their employers. Have we forgotten our farm workers? Let's get started. Good evening and welcome to the Democracy Gauge. I'm Bongani Bingwa. Farm work is a physically intense job. It's also considered dangerous given that some farm workers have to work with heavy machinery, pesticides, and unpredictable weather patterns. But despite their immense contribution to the agricultural sector, these workers are often poorly paid, and certainly a number of them live inadequately. The dire lack of proper housing for farm workers has from time to time made headlines. But has anything improved? Do most farm workers still live at work, dependent on their employer for needs, get assistance? Will the agricultural sector ever diversify? So that brings us then to our poll question for this evening. Have we forgotten our farm workers? You can choose from our three colors. Green is for yes, yellow is for maybe, and of course red is for no. You can go to sabcnews.com to vote, and of course we extend the conversation on Facebook and Twitter. Remember to use the hashtag SABCDG25 and hashtag SABCNews. In Piet Retief and Bethal, farm workers are calling government to rescue them from abusive and lawless farm owners. This follows a series of court cases being heard at the Piet Retief and Bethal magistrates' courts. The farm workers are being paid a pittance. Their livestock, often it gets poisoned, they share water with their livestock and cannot construct decent houses, and still some don't even have electricity. Pepile Kunene sent us this report from Mpumalanga.
Working the land for food security, but these people who toil the land receive a meager salary, claiming that their rights are being violated.
Besebenza mahala saqala muva sahola bo 800 manje ke impatho kulaba basha labangene manje akuseyona le ayingcono leyo kuhlupheka ngoba sasingatholi lutho manje kuzima ngobungwaye ngihamba ngalimalela la inzuzo yakhona ayikho.
Some farm dwellers allege that owners kill their livestock. Despite cases being opened with the police, little has been done. Piet Retief and Bethal magistrate courts are accused of being biased towards farm owners.
In 2002, kwafika umlungu wangapha next door wathi indawo ithengile. Waqala lapho kuhlukumeza kumlungu. Umlungu udubula izinja, ufaka ipoison, akafuni isima emathuneni, akafuni isingcwabe kule plaza, akafuni isithola amanzi, akafuni nedlelo lenkomo, ubulala yonke into.
The living conditions of farm workers and dwellers is another challenge on some farms. In one case, it's claimed that circular farm owners cut power supply to the dwellers' houses.
Ugesi ukhona mari sikhishelo kunjalo kulesikhathi manje bathi emaplazini kumele kube nogesi. Umlungu wahamba washiya kunogesi kodwa ugesi asinawo amapalamile ekhaya.
But there's also another picture to see. Some farmers coexist peacefully with their workers.
There are a total of 80 beneficiary families on that 45 hectares. And as I say, a lot of consultation went into the size of the stands and stuff. But what they've got is security of tenure.
Uyasipha iganda sambe sothoza inkuni, uyasiza nokulima.
The Mpumalanga Agriculture Department is working with the Department of Rural Development and Reform to improve the lives of farm workers and dwellers.
Siyenza ke ukuthi sibambisane nabo bona ngithi yiba bakhipha umhlaba. Thine-ke njenge-provincial government ne-Department ye-Agriculture bese sinikeza iy'nsiza kulabo bantu ey'fanana nokubalimela, iy'nsiza ezifanana nangabe bafuna ukufuya through i-program yemasibuyele esibayeni.
Efforts to get comment from farm owners proved futile. Farm workers who continue to get ill-treated by farm owners are encouraged to approach the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development, as well as to report those cases to the police. Siphephile Gunene, SABC, Gert Sibande region.
Well, joining our discussion now from our Cape Town studio is Billy Clausen, himself a former farm worker, now also the Executive Director for the Rural and Farm Worker Development Organization. Billy, welcome to the Democracy Gauge. Thank you for talking to us this evening. Let's talk about the plight of our farm workers around the country. How vulnerable are they?
Good afternoon. And good afternoon to the viewers outside there, and especially the farm workers listening in now. Currently, they are very, very vulnerable. You see what happened now in South Africa. Farmers use this whole thing of plaas-aanval and plaas-attack, farm attack and farm murders to get to the farm workers, and they push our farm workers aside. They rape our farm workers' democracy in some cases. On some farms, there is not even rights for our farm workers. They don't have the human rights on farms. They need to walk long distances. They need to come along without any running water, without any sewage systems on the farms. Those kind of issues needs to be addressed. And currently, I think that the government also failed our farm workers on certain stages. There is, as we speak now, alongside the R44 in Wellington, between Wellington and Paarl, a family of 7 is sitting there with a 3-year-old child. Can it go anywhere because they have been evicted by the system? Yeah. The system is failing them.
Billy, it's obviously the working conditions, it's the living conditions, exactly as you've just pointed out. Quite often farm workers can be evicted. In some cases, their homes are even demolished by the farmers.
That is correct. That is true, yes. Farmers cannot wait for farm workers to get out of the house, and they use these big tractors and big bulldozers to bulldoze down those houses. It is a stage of before 1994 where people been evicted from farms in the apartheid style, and they're doing these things just to get rid of our people or to get rid of the houses. Yeah. But in some cases, they get rid of our people out of the houses and then upgrade those houses for chalets or anything like that. And then they begin with this thing of agri-tourism on farms and make big bucks of money.
So they make changes. Farm workers are often not consulted. Tell me, are conditions typically any better or worse for female farm workers than their male counterparts?
I think for female farm workers have been worst off on farms. There's the thing of the triple oppression on farms for female farm workers, where female farm workers they face the farmers on brutality on the farm, and then they need to go home and still need to face those own challenges in the house, where they need to manage their own household. Yeah. So those kind of issues. And in some cases where the man being lost his job, the woman or the wife needs to get rid of at the same time get rid of by the farmers. And those kind of things must stop, because women have their own rights and they need to adhere to this. Yeah. But these farmers don't care for rights in our country. Some of these farmers.
Billy, talk to me about the wages. I know in some instances farm workers are still paid by the DOP system, for example, and in cases where they do earn money, it's not that very high.
In some cases, there is cases where farmers being paid with the DOP system on some farms. There is, and we are going to go there. And I ask people there's people who say that we are want to be populists and all those kind of things. We ask them to come with us and we can go to these farms. On some farms, people have been paid by, you call it in Afrikaans, stukwerk. Been paid for the work they've done, but not for the hours they work on a farm. And those kind of things must stop. Most of these farmers in our areas, they don't want to pay the minimum wage. They apply to government to be get rid of this thing. But this must stop. They must pay our people the minimum wage, and in some states where they pay the minimum wage or more than the minimum wage, they mustn't come down. And there is places where they reduce workers' pay on farms. Those things must stop. And the Department of Labor is failing our people here. The minister, I really hope after the elections, the president will appoint a more better or a more progressive minister of labor, because the current one is failing us.
Let me ask you this, Billy. I mean, it's a question we're asking this evening. Have farm workers been forgotten? Have they been left behind? You talk about government failing them. It quite often seems they really are at the mercy of whether they have a good farmer or a bad one. Have we left the farm worker behind?
My question, or my answer will be yes on this question. Farm workers have been forgotten. And we ask and we urge the president to make us part of the new dawn, to make farm workers part of this new dawn he's speaking about. So, because on some cases, farm workers are just there to produce some food, to produce some wine on farms. In most cases, in the world and in South Africa, they eat and drink the sin of the white farmer. They drink the blood of farm workers who've been brutally abused on farms, and who've been, in some instances, killed on farms. Those kind of things must stop. And these people in our society must also come out and speak out against these evil acts on farms. But they keep quiet, and they don't want to speak out against these evil acts on farms.
Billy, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your perspective this evening. Billy making it very clear that from his perspective, that farm workers have been forgotten. Billy Clausen there. What are your thoughts? Time for you to interact with our poll topic on sabcnews.com. You can also do so on Facebook and Twitter, remembering to use the hashtag SABCDG25 and SABC News. Tonight, we're asking the question, have we forgotten our farm workers? Green is for yes, yellow maybe, and red, of course, is for no. We'll share your views after the break. Welcome back. It's all about you here on the Democracy Gauge. So let's find out what you've had to say on social media. Let's start with Facebook. A number of you responding there. Lent Wanoz says, yes, we have. And most important, the land. This, of course, have we forgotten our farmers? Was there a time where we remembered them, says Uzwide. Mthokozisi Dlamini says, farm workers have always been there. Why do we have to remember them now? The answer is simple. The elections are almost here. That's usually a lot of the sentiment around election time. People think that these issues are being brought up because of elections. How politicians respond, obviously, is one thing, but we're raising these because these are issues that need to be discussed. Last one on Facebook from Sophie Butelez is saying the real farmers, and they're oppressed every day in the farms while they earn peanuts, and the settler gets richer off their hard work, I think it means. Right, what's on Twitter? Ligasa Mola says most farmers are forgotten, but only remembered during election time. Most farm workers are abused. They work overtime, Saturday, Sunday, holidays. They don't get paid for basic conditions of Employment Act not followed. That's that view there. Obviously a very strong one. So those are what people are saying on Twitter and on Facebook. Now, we want to hear directly from you on the show. That's coming up next. Right, The People's View allows you to interact with us directly and to share your views candidly. We've got this WhatsApp video.
Yeah, hence, good day, South Africa. My name is Sindile Mkapa. I think this time that I've been given to the gentleman that is hosting the show, commenting on the farmers' employees. I would say the question is this: are the farmers paid enough? I would say no. If you can remember, in PAR, there were employees were contesting about the money they were getting underpaid. And so I would say here in South Africa, if you are earning less than 4,500 rands, then it means you are an underpayer. And so I would say they are not paid enough as recommended, as requested actually. And so not only if you talk of farm workers, you talk of the people that are harvesting maize and that are planting things, green things like they're in the farm, unskilled laborers. But I would say even the security guards response, there's this thing here in the Western Cape that says if you are a security, you get paid by the rates. You get the Cape Town rate, Poland rate, and all those kind of stuff. I don't know for the provinces. I will only tell you of the Western Cape. If you the security, even if you are working at the farm or wherever you are working, you must earn the same amount according to your grades.
Right, if you want to be part of the People's View in our next program, send us an email to dg25@sabc.co.za. At the end of the show, I'll throw forward to tomorrow's topic. Now, after the break, we meet Romeo and Zebulon Hunts, Rastafarians from the Eastern Cape. Well, through the Democracy Gauge, SABC News profiles different South Africans. We've been doing so every day. Today we're going to meet a group of Rastafarians staying in the northern part of Port Elizabeth. Of course, you can find our stories on our interactive map on our SABC Elections website. We're going to Port Elizabeth, where we meet with a group of Rastafarians. Of course, they were elated after years of fighting for the legalization of marijuana. Chapter 2 of the Constitution, as you know, says everyone has the right to freedom of religion, belief and opinion. And they've long held the view that they are misunderstood and still marginalized in South Africa.
I'm just boiling the herb now, so you can have the most present when you're doing all things.
The toughest part to be a Rastafari in that time of the apartheid was when you have dreadlocks. You see, you were like a piece of nothing. Even a dog were better than you. The people, they don't recognize in that time, they didn't recognize the culture, how the culture works. For instance, if we burn our incense, it is like we are doing witchcraft. This red stands for the democracy in South Africa. I read it like red because nothing has changed for us as Rastafarians. Although they make the ganja for us legal, but it's not, still it is not legal for I, because I must just smoke it in I own yard.
After 1994, nothing really happened, Sebulon, you see. Nothing really changed, you see, I. They only last year on my Earth Day, they legalized marijuana only for smoking in your house. You see, but if you look at Amsterdam, places at Amsterdam, they freed the plant completely.
You always have to wrap your head with a turban and wear long dresses, even in workplaces. Like the time I was working, there was one woman that came in that asked me, why do I dress like this? It's not professional because like I was covering my head. I'm gonna grow my child hair like this naturally. See, yes, I just hope that she won't face the things that we've been through. Yeah, like teachers discriminating you. I just hope that she don't go through that stuff, and at school that they won't discriminate her.
And at school also, when I came back at school, it was tough for me because every time when I come in the morning at school, teachers are accusing me of smoking weed, smoking the herb at school, and I don't even smoke at school. You see. We don't get job opportunities. There's no schools for us, and people are still fighting us at schools for our hair, and they're still accusing us for smoking herb on school and smelling us and stuff like that. So I don't think I think it's red. I rate it red.
Democracy, it means we must be free. Isn't democracy? We must all be free. And we must say what we want to say and expose our cultures in any ways. You see?
But we're being oppressed.
But still, Rastafari is still being oppressed.
So, do you remember where you were in the build-up to Freedom Day 25 years ago? The extensive SABC News archives take us back to this time in 1994, on this day when the house of ANC premier candidate Jacob Zuma was set alight in Gandla, in what was then called Northern Natal.
Mama wasilande sikwenze njani?
Kube nokuzwakala ukuthi angiphephile. Ungase kuba kuhlasela uba ngizoshiswa la ekhaya. Kusho ukuthi ke ngase nami ngangalala la ekhaya ke. Insuku embili. Shodo lokuqala losibili ke khona lesikhathi esengishise ngaso ke ebusuku.
Wena ushiswa nje ukwenza bekuthiweni mhlawumbe yini osolayo?
Kutheke umuzi we-ANC.
Ukusho blog.
Emhlanganweni.
Wakhona la endaweni.
Wakhona la endaweni emhlangano lapha esikoleni.
From humble beginnings indeed. Well, here are the results of today's poll question coming up on your screen. 72% say yes, 9% say maybe, and 19% of you say no. Well, as always, we thank you for watching and participating in our show. Our question for tomorrow is red tape killing small business. That poll is now open. You can choose from 3 colors. Green is yes, yellow maybe, red and no. Interact with our poll on sabcnews.com, and of course you can answer questions on Facebook and Twitter, remembering to use the hashtag SABCDG25 and SABC News. You can also view all the profiles featured on this episode and indeed the last few days, as well as our segment Today in History, by visiting our website sabcnews.com/elections. And of course, if you want to be part of the People's View in the next episode, simply send us an email, dg25@sabc.co.za. Thank you for watching from Fortune and myself. Until tomorrow, Good night.